What is going on, guys? It is time for MLB Live Before Lock. Am I going to be solo? Is Eric going to be here? We don't quite know yet. He is working through internet issues that have persisted since yesterday. So whatever is going on over in Eric land there, it is happening without internet. He's like an Amish person there. He is not online. He is working. Actually, I don't even know he's going to be submitting his lineups or anything like that today. But if Eric is able to get it sorted, everything out with his internet stuff, then he's going to join us. If not, it is just going to be me here talking to you guys. Jordan Klein will be building some lineups and whatnot out for us on the screen. So do us a favor as you're watching, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are sponsored today by Bet365. You guys are living in Pennsylvania and haven't checked out Bet365. It just went live in your state, and it's a very easy thing to take advantage of. If you sign up at Bet365 using the link that we have down below in the YouTube description box, all you have to do is make it a minimum deposit of $10. You place a $5 bet and they give you $150 in bonus bets. If you anybody know has a gambling problem, call or text the number 1-800-GAMBLER. And yeah, I mean, Obi-Wan in the chat saying, where's Zippy? We don't know. He's not online. If somebody's not online these days, they might as well not exist. So he's working on it. He was resetting it. He was resetting it again. Then I think Jordan said he entered the wrong Zoom room or something. Was that what happened, Jordan? Yeah, so who knows? Who knows? But it's all good. I do have something that I am pretty excited to do on the show today. Here's what I did on Twitter. I asked you guys to send me some of the lineups you're building today. So we'll go through. It's also a very small slate. We only have a few games here. If you guys have questions for us in the Discord chat, hit me up. We'll be answering some of those. It is one of the perks of being a stochastic sub. Also letting you guys know, I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you this, but I'm going to anyway. Because we have the new single lineup Sims tool, we are going to be running a 25% off sale beginning on Monday. So just letting you guys know that on Monday, we are going to be running a discount here. So I want to let you guys know that in case you are considering signing up for the new tool. If you wait till Monday, you're going to get yourself a little 25% off. But don't tell anybody I told you. This is just between us. We'll keep it a secret. Weather today. We've got some weather concerns. If you go ahead and look in the Cleveland game, there is a chance of some pretty bad weather. It looks like it might hold on until later. I was just looking at the weather reports and the radar as we were waiting for Eric to come into Zoom and get us started here. And here's how it currently looks. The game is going to start without too much of an issue. It looks like somewhere around like 9 to 10 p.m. in Cleveland, it's going to start raining. Once it starts raining, it is not going to stop. So I do think the most likely scenario is to get the entire game in. Maybe the end of the game gets cut off. But with that said, considering the size of the slate, I feel like we have to get exposure to this game and go ahead and play it anyway. Because if we aren't, then we're just chopping a big game off. I mean, we're losing 20% of the slate if we go and we remove that game from our player pool. So that is not something I'm willing to do, especially because I do think the most likely scenario is either the entire game plays or at the very least most of the game ends up being played. So I'm going to be leaving that one in my player pool, and I have a lot of exposure to Baltimore, so I hope it does end up working out for us. Going ahead and looking at the pitchers that I am getting exposure to, as well as the ownership on the pitchers here. Let's start by looking at the expensive pitchers like we normally do. And I don't know if you guys checked out the thumbnail. It's Seth Lugo in the thumbnail. Tell me if you guys agree with this. I think that Seth Lugo, at least in his thumbnail picture, looks quite a bit like Eric. So even if Eric isn't here, he's with us in spirit in the YouTube thumbnail. If you guys, what's that, Jordan? Is he here? I don't know what you're showing me. Okay. All right. That's great. Jordan just showed me that he's FaceTiming Eric right now. So I'm doing the show by myself here while my producer is FaceTiming the co-host I'm supposed to be doing the program with. I'm going to need you to focus up a little bit, Jordan. But yeah, if you guys come up with a solution, that works as well. But pitching. If we're looking at the pay up options, we've got 3 guys to choose from in the 9K range, and all of them are about comparably popular. We've got Sonny Gray pitching against the Chicago Cubs. He's 36% owned. We've got Shota Imanaga pitching against the Cardinals, so going up against each other. He is 26% owned. And then we've got Seth Lugo there. He is pulling 33% ownership. And I've got very distinct tiers for these 3 pitchers. If I'm paying up for one of these guys, I'm going to be going to Sonny Gray, who I do think of all these pitchers is the overall best pitcher to be looking at. And that is also what is coming up in just the Sims unencumbered that Jordan has that he just showed on screen there as well. Sonny Gray's been awesome this year, and his strikeout rate through the roof. So 3.79 ERA, 3.71 expected ERA. But most importantly, for the ceiling of Sonny Gray, we're getting a 30.6% strikeout rate out of him. And in previous years, Sonny Gray has been good, but he just hasn't brought this kind of strikeouts to the table. Last year, 24.3% strikeout rate. 2022, 24%. Back in 2021, 27%. So you're still getting the same quality pitcher in Sonny Gray, but you're also getting added strikeout upside out of him. And that is something that I think we get more out of him than the other guys like Shota Imanaga or Seth Lugo. So that's where, to me, Sonny Gray really rises towards the top. Imanaga's second for me, and then Seth Lugo is 3. So of these 3 pitchers, I'm overweight to the field on Sonny Gray. I'm about even with the field on Imanaga, and I'm coming in underweight to the field on Seth Lugo. Seth Lugo only in about 20% of my lineups. And the problem I have with Seth Lugo is you just don't have the same strikeout upside with him as you do with these other pitchers. And also, he's facing regression in the second half of the season. He's not a bad pitcher, Seth Lugo, but he's certainly outperforming what he should be doing. He's got a career best 2.66 ERA as a starter, but he's got a 3.95 expected ERA. There's 2 particular areas. I look at the numbers on Seth Lugo, and there's cause for concern. First off, 264 BABIP. That is going to be worse going forward. Another thing he has going for him in terms of the luck department, an 80.3% strand rate. That's also going to be worse for Seth Lugo going forward. And then once those things regress, you don't have a bad pitcher. You just have a slightly above average pitcher that doesn't generate a ton of strikeouts. He only has a 21.8% strikeout rate this year. So I just don't see him as having the same upside as Imanaga or as Sonny Gray. So he's my least favorite of those 3 options. And let's see if there's any questions that we have in Discord, because we usually have some questions coming in about cash games and things along those lines right about now. But let's talk about, there isn't. But if we go ahead and talk about the cash game pitching options we want to be getting to, I think we do want to mostly focus on the higher end pitchers. I'm going to include Charlie Morton in the mix as well. Morton's got a great matchup against the Miami Marlins. He's the chalkiest pitcher overall on the slate, pulling close to 40% ownership. So I think you want to go Charlie Morton, one of those spots. He's also just kind of a no-brainer option at $8,800 at home here against the Miami Marlins. And I'm like pairing him with Sonny Gray because I think Morton, he's your no-brainer option in a great matchup against the Marlins. Have you guys seen what the Marlins lineup is looking like now? It's not great. I'm going to pull up the entire batting order right now. Here it is, top to bottom. Now that they've made all these trade deadline deals. Batting first, it's Xavier Edwards. Then you got Jake Berger, Jesus Sanchez. Jonah Bride is the 4-hitter for the Miami Marlins. Yuck. Kyle Stowers, Otto Lopez, Nick Gordon, Forrest Wall, which, I mean, that's just a couple of nouns put together. That's not a real human being. And then finally, Nick Fortes at catcher, batting 9th. That is as shitty a lineup could possibly be. I know the White Sox are going to be putting out some shitty lineups as well, but I don't think anything is as bad as what we're going to be getting at the Miami Marlins going forward. So I think that we definitely want to be playing a good amount of Charlie Morton in GPPs, even at chalk ownership, and also somebody easy to click on for cash game purposes. So cash games, I think Charlie Morton, Sonny Gray, those are the guys you want to be going to. If we're looking at some of the lesser owned pitchers, which is everybody else on the slate, because those 4 pitchers, they're accounting for, what is it? 60. Oh my God, Eric's here? Maybe. I'm not going to get my hopes up yet. I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it. Oh my God. Look who it is. Look who it is. The show's over in 10 minutes, but you're able to make it.
Great.
Let's see. How's the internet?
The internet's fine. The internet wasn't even the issue. I sent a message to Jordan at 2:40 because I was just like, all right, something's bugging on my end. I'm going to restart my internet. I'll be in like 10 to 15 minutes. And then I get back and I keep clicking launch meeting and Zoom will not let me in the door. It just doesn't want to let me in. It's almost as if it knows that I was going to give terrible advice today and nobody wants to listen to me.
Yeah, just like every other day. But so I mean, like it's not.
I've hit 4 fucking home runs in a row, you loser. Shut up. Shut up. I'm not in the mood. Let's talk DFS. You absolute jerk.
I've already gone through all of the high-end pitchers.
No, you haven't. Have you really?
Yeah. And I mean, we really don't have that much time left here. So
okay,
one
keep
thing
going.
that I do want to ask you is, of the contrarian pitchers, which is everybody who's priced below Charlie Morton on DraftKings today, do you have a lesser owned starting pitcher they're making any kind of stand on. Every single pitcher priced below Charlie Morton is less than 17% owned.
No, I am not.
I have one. It is Ryan Feltner.
Oh, God.
Not one that I feel great about or anything like that, but he does have a pretty good matchup against the Los Angeles Angels. And also Ryan Feltner has not been terrible this year. Not been great.
I agree.
But 4.99 ERA, 4.23 expected ERA. You're getting a 21% K rate out of Ryan Feltner, which is also not great, but it's not completely terrible when you consider it's relative to his price point because he is very cheap on the slate. He's not all that popular. Another thing to consider as well is that he's going to be pitching on the road. He's not in Coors Field, and he does have pretty pronounced splits this year. So when you take Ryan Feltner outside of Coors Field, the difference for the year is he has a 6.14 ERA at home. It's 4.16 on the road, which, I mean, you expect these kinds of things when he's going to have to be making half his starts at Coors Field. So he gets that little bit of a park upgrade. The Angels also, not that we were expecting to be in the lineup today anyway, but Mike Trout has been ruled out for the season. He got one rehab game in and hurt his knee again. So, yeah, just terrible circumstances there with everything going on with Mike Trout and the tail end of the peak of his career. So Ryan Feltner, if I have to roster one of these cheap pitchers to be contrarian, Feltner, I have about double the field on him. He's somebody who I like being overweight too. Just in general, Eric, and then we'll move on here. Is there anything else that stands out to you at pitcher?
Yeah. So, I mean, Ryan Feltner was the guy. So I thought you were talking like on the more expensive end, like somebody I was taking a stand on. I'm about with the field on Shreddy Managa, about on the field with Lugo as well. Lugo's been really good. I don't think people understand how good he's been. 2.66 ERA, 1.04 whip, but like underlying metrics across the board looked really, really good against Detroit today. The matchup's as good as possible. I've been projected for the most fantasy points of anybody on the slate, which is kind of insane. I've got Gray within 0.1 of him, but regardless, I love Lugo. I love Gray. Imanaga, I'm about at the field at. He's a little bit lower owned than both, but then we go to Feltner. I'm with you. Like Ryan Feltner was somebody that I ended up betting the under of 2.5 earned runs allowed for today. I think that he's a really, what was that?
I just said I dig it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good bet. And I talked about it last night on Lindy's where I do think you get one of these ballparks where it's not Coors Field, but like it's a good hitter's ballpark, no doubt about it. But like you look at the splits of a lot of these Colorado Rockies starting pitchers, 1.55 whip at home, 1.31 whip on the road, 314 batting average for Ryan Feltner at home, 246 for him on the road. I mean, there is no doubt that you get out of Coors Field where the ball can break a little bit more. And here in Anaheim around sea level, it should be there. Even though it's a good hitting ballpark, I think the Angels are a really good strikeout matchup. And I think Ryan Feltner, I think he's in a really good spot to just continue what he, if you've looked at his box scores, even like the last 3 or 4, he's only given up 3 solo home runs. He hasn't given up any other earned runs. He's given up like what, 4, 6, 2, 4 hits. He has been very difficult to get after here on the road. And that was against Cincinnati, the Mets, San Francisco, all of which I would value higher than the Angels.
Anything else you want to add at pitcher? Or also, what are you doing with the weather in the Cleveland game? Because I talked about what I was doing at the top, but want to know if there's anything in particular that you are doing.
I mean, it's not good, but I mean, it starts in 22 minutes. I mean, we got to be playing it at the moment. I'm not going to be doing anything for it unless we get an alert that, you know, I should be hitting abandon on it. But right now I'm playing it just straight up. How about you?
Yeah, I left it in. It's at the very least, I think we get most of the game in.
Yeah,
it looks like the rain somewhere around 9 to 10 Eastern time. So if it's a quick game, then it's one that I definitely think should get in time. Worst case scenario is maybe we lose the last 2 to 3 innings of the game or something like that. But on a 5-game slate, I just can't take an entire game out of my player pool because we might miss a couple of innings at the end of the game. So I'm going to be leaving it in. I also have a lot of exposure to the Baltimore Orioles. Jordan, pull up the single lineup sim tool because I want to try something new for today. And I told you guys a little bit about it at the top of the show. But we had some people submit some lineups to me on Twitter. And what we are going to do is we're going to enter some of those lineups that you guys submitted to me that you're planning on playing today. And we'll see if those lineups are projected to positive ROI lineups. If they are, going to give you the old thumbs up. If not, we're going to try to figure out what is wrong with the lineups that is making them not project out all that well. So let's see the first lineup that I have in here that I randomly selected. It is from Marshall Hatfield. Marshall, I also think, was the first person to reply to me and send me a lineup. But here's what we're going to do at pitcher here, Jordan. Put Sonny Gray in first. All right. Now put Meyer in as the SP2. He is 7,500. At catcher, Freddie Fermin. At first base, Salvador Perez. I just realized I didn't think to look if all these players were confirmed in the lineup. Vidal Brujan at second base, because I don't think he's in the lineup, unless I'm misremembering. Yeah, Brujan is not in the lineup. Yeah, he's not in the lineup. That's why. So we'll go third base, Mikel Garcia. We'll just fill somebody in at second base at the end. So third base, Mikel Garcia. Shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr. We have at outfield, Hunter Renfroe. Colton Cowser. C-O, like cow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ladies I used to meet in college. And then Willie Calhoun as one of the other outfielders.
They called me Hog.
Okay, so we have, so we've got a 5-man KC stack. So now just fill in that final lineup spot, Jordan, with whoever projects the best that's left. It's for the last spot there, which there is nobody. So let's see, move Mikel Garcia from second base to third base. Maybe there's a second baseman we can get in here. Yeah, plug Garcia in at third base. So click on third base. Yeah, up there. Yeah, now click on Garcia. Oh, okay. So we learned something new here. All right, so second base, who's the cheapest available second baseman?
Your mother, Trebek.
Also, the ladies I used to meet in college. Same answer again. All right, second base. Yeah, whoever's the cheapest available, plug them in. Yeah, like with the lowest salary. Okay, do we have enough money to fit Mikel Garcia in now? Okay, there we go. Now run the sim. And let's see what we end up getting for an expected ROI of this lineup. And then we could also give a little bit of critiques here. Number one thing, I don't like Max Meyer for the slate. I have him in 4% of my top 150 lineups. So he's not somebody that I'm really seriously considering. The lineup overall, is it terrible? No, but is expected to be slightly negative EV here, minus 3.6% sim ROI. One thing that I think you could pretty easily do to make this lineup a little bit better is instead of Max Meyer, let's see. Instead of Max Meyer, I would probably plug in. I would just go to Ryan Feltner and then upgrade your secondary stacks. So like, I think the Royal stack as a 5-man is fine, but I would not really be wanting to play some of these other guys as secondary pieces. So let's take out, I'm trying to remember who it's very hard to see on the screen because it's small. Can you read that, Eric?
Yeah. What do you need? Which part?
I'm trying to figure out who we want to take out to make the lineup better and who we want to replace them with.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different options. I think the first one is probably getting away from some of the different one-offs. So we have Jonah Bride there, Jonah Bride for Miami there. I think we remove him. I think we probably get a little bit different with Cowser as well. I think what's happening is we probably have some of the more popular one-offs. I mean, we took like a cheapie there, plugging it in. Cowser's going to be popular as a one-off, I would think, even at 8.9%. Like, that's not crazy, but I'm looking through because we can keep the same 5-man, I think. And let's just change up those one-offs and see what happens.
Yeah, so if instead at second base, also we get more correlation, put a Jackson Holiday in at second base.
Good call. Good call.
I think we can make probably like a secondary stack of the Orioles. And then who is the other one-off that we had outside? I know we had Cowser, and who's the other outfielder?
Cowser, Bride, and then Welly Calhoun was the other one.
Okay, so take Calhoun
I think Cedric
out.
Mullins. Let's go to Mullins. And then...
so do we have a 3-man Orioles stack now as a run back?
It's a 2-man there. We need to remove Renfroe and put in a Baltimore Oriole
but Renfroe's part of the Royal stack.
Okay. Let me see here. Let's do...
So the outfielders we have, scroll back up, Jordan. Who's the non-Royals player we have in the lineup?
And that's what I'm saying. We're missing one outfield spot.
Oh, okay. There. Yeah, I don't know how we ended up with 6 Royals players now.
There we go. Willie Calhoun is still there, you fuck.
Oh, okay.
What are you doing?
Jordan
Klein. Jordan Klein. God, killing me. It's okay. I love you anyway. You're beautiful. And
so plug Mullins in now.
Yeah. He already had Mullins in. So I think it's got to be Ryan O'Hearn or Cowser would fit. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so plug Cowser in.
Oh, it's Ezequiel Tavar's birthday. Congratulations to Ezequiel Tavar. Thank you, Sean V. This is what I was looking for from you. Yeah, so then put in
so just for the last
Mullins.
Outfield spot, whichever player is the highest projection that's remaining that fits in the lineup.
Or Jorge Soler, that too. But yeah, either. There you go.
Okay, there we go.
Yep.
So now run the sim and see what it looks like now that we have a little bit more correlation there. We took Max Meyer out of the lineup. By the way, while this sim is running, shout out to Chris Williams, who gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. Always appreciate you, Chris. And then Emax says he's just waking up from his nap. Can we get a weather update? Yeah, I am going to be playing the Cleveland game. I'm good with it in lineups today. And look at that. We made a couple of changes. Instead of the lineup that was sent to us there by Marshall, it was expected for like a negative 3% ROI. Now 14.8% simulated ROI lineup. So that's where you guys could play around with this tool, and you could hand build a lineup, play around with it, and make it a lineup that isn't expected to be plus EV, and then make it plus EV. So if you guys like us building some lineups here that you guys submit to us, let us know. And we can keep doing this on Live Before Lock. But let's talk about the rest of the stacks on the slate, Eric. And there's not that much of them to talk about, right? There's only 5 games on the entire slate. Of all the teams that we have at our disposal today, who are you getting the most exposure to as a stack?
So right now it's Kansas City, which isn't all that surprising. Atlanta's pretty close, though. Atlanta, I have in 16% of lineups. I've got Kansas City in 18% of lineups. So Keider Montero is terrible, horrible, no good, very bad at pitching. And it should surprise nobody that a guy north of a 6 ERA is going to have Kansas City with this top half of the lineup. And Bobby Witt Jr. going absolutely God mode on the world is going to be popular. So it's, for me, going to be getting to Kansas City. I like that they sent the 5-man in here too. I think that that's a really fun deal for plugging into the Sims tool, to the single entry Sims tool right from the get-go. I think it's an awesome stack to be getting to. I'm a little worried that they end up too popular. We could end up seeing them much, much, much higher owned than this, but nobody's playing Montero. Nobody's really playing Meyer. I'm happy to get to them. I think that kind of makes me want to get to Baltimore in single entry today against Ben Lively. They get the 9th inning bump on the road. You obviously have power 1 through 9. There are some salary relief options with Holiday in there. Congratulations to him on rejoining the land of the living and hitting the Grand Slam yesterday. But Kansas City, my highest owned stack today.
It is Baltimore for me. And I'm actually not getting to very much of KC on paper. I understand why it's a really good stack. It clearly is against Keider Montero. If you guys are just asking me who's like the cash game stack or the team that we expect to score the most runs, it's the Royals going up against Keider Montero. The problem, though, is we have them projected for 17% ownership. We have them as being one of the most negatively leveraged stacks on the slate. We've got 3 teams in our top stacks tool that are pulling a ton of, well, 2 teams actually are pulling a ton of ownership. Angels a little bit less so against Ryan Feltner, but the Royals against Keider Montero, the Braves against Max Meyer, those teams both expected for north of 15% ownership. So with that being the case, once again, I don't think these are terrible teams to be getting to. I just have less than the field because of how highly owned they are. On the other side, you've got a Baltimore Orioles team in a good matchup against Ben Lively that's only projected for less than 9.9% ownership, just under 10% ownership. We have them as being the 6th most owned team on the slate, but with the 2nd highest tap stack odds. And this isn't a slate where I find pricing to be all that problematic. So my most rostered team, Eric, Baltimore Orioles, they're in 31% of my lineups.
I have no problem with the Baltimore 31%. Look at you making a big stand. I like it. Put a little hair on the chest. Let's go. But Kansas City's still going to be the highest owned for me when it's all said and done. As I'm rewriting some stuff here, I've got Kansas City 1. I've got Atlanta barely behind them at 2. And Baltimore, I'm playing in single entries. So I think we're on the same page there, where Baltimore's a little bit underowned. Ben Lively's been all right coming out of KBO back into Major League Baseball. I think he's been a pretty good pitcher this season relative to expectations for him on Zip, Steamer, and such. But I'm happy to get to them. I guess Cleveland's the one team that I'm a little bit worried that I'm underweight to here. I think they're overowned. We've got them overowned in the top sim or in the top stacks tool, but as I sim stuff, I'm just not really getting to them against Trevor Rogers. I think he's going to play really, really well in Baltimore when they have home games there, and you have the longer left field there. Obviously, this is in Cleveland, so it's very different, but like it's the same fact remains that like I think Trevor Rogers is going to be in an all right spot. We've seen lefty power play up here at Progressive, but not so much as much righty power. Still, I feel weird not having Cleveland in my lineups right now, but I'm with you. Kansas City, Atlanta, Baltimore, 1, 2, 3 for me.
Shout out to some more YouTube memberships being gifted out. We got 5 thrown into the YouTube channel by Chris Williams, 5 being gifted out by our friend Guitar Z-Man 247. So guys, thank you for supporting the channel. Do appreciate it.
And then 5 more by Chris Williams.
Yeah. As always, so Chris Williams,
thank
you.
Double dong, Chris Williams.
One thing that I did take note of that I'm going to keep in mind for the future is just to make sure when we get closer to the show that the lineups that people submit to us, that it does have all of the players actually in the lineup. I didn't think about that until right as we were building. It's like, oh yeah, some of these guys not in the lineup, and that then means that we have to make some other alterations to it. So good to know for the future. Gordon Powell saying any weather worries. Yeah, the Cleveland-Baltimore game could be a little dicey, but I'm going to be playing it anyway. I have the most exposure to Baltimore of any other stack on the slate. I'm not willing to go without the Baltimore Orioles today. Are there any of these really popular teams that you were underweight to, Eric? I mentioned I'm underweight to KC. I'm also underweight to the field on Atlanta. Any of these popular teams that you're struggling to get to the ownership the field is on?
Colorado and LA. I'm going to be playing Ryan Feltner. Talked about that last night. Talked about it a little bit today. Carson Fulmer isn't good, but like I get a little bit worried that we're going to get an overowned Colorado team, which is like the worst possible thing you can click on in MLB DFS is like Colorado popular. Like that would really, really suck. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, those are the 2 that are pulling double-digit ownership that I'm under to. It sucks because it's the best ballpark out of all of these, but at the same time, I like the lineup for Atlanta with Jorge Soler being in there. He's going to be my home run call. Spoiler alert here with 7 minutes left. But him leading off there, Jared Kelenic in the 8 hole. I mean, 1 through 8, you're looking really, really good. Whit Merrifield does have second base outfield. So 1 through 9, you've got a number of viable options from Atlanta. I don't feel the same way when you look at the Colorado lineup, like top heavy with Blackman, Tavar, Doyle, McMahon, but you know, back half of the lineup isn't all that strong to me. And then Carson Fulmer is not good, but like, again, Colorado overowned would be the worst thing to click on this slate.
Yeah, if you go ahead and look at the ownership we have, I am coming in underweight to the field on the Angels. Makes sense, right? Because when we were talking about pitchers and contrarian guys, I like, well, if I like Ryan Feltner as a contrarian pitching option, it stands to reason I'm going to be underweight to the field on the Angels. We have the Angels projected for right around 14% ownership, the 3rd most popular offense on the slate, and I have about half of what the field has on the Los Angeles Angels. Here's what I'm doing in turn, because I am a little bit underweight to the field on these really, really popular stacks, some of them. Well, number one is I'm way overweight to the Orioles. I've already hit on that. And then I'm just kind of mixing in a bunch of these
Yeah.
contrarian teams. Like, even though the Marlins suck, I have some secondary stacks of the Marlins. They're going to save you salary. You don't want to have your slate like made or broken by the Miami Marlins, but in lineups that don't have Charlie Morton, I do have some of them for value, mostly just because of ownership and some leverage reasons there, but also wouldn't want to tell anybody to go ahead and play them in a scenario where you're playing like, 1, 2, 3, 5
Right.
lineups or anything like that. Another team as well that I'm getting myself some exposure to here, Eric, is the St. Louis Cardinals going up against Shota Imanaga. Cardinals, another team we only have polling 8% ownership. It's a 5-game slate, so it's not like we have any team that's 2 or 3% owned, but I do have a double-digit amount of the Cardinals against Imanaga. And one thing about Imanaga in the second half of the year is he was completely lights out in the early going of the season. He's still great, 2.95 ERA, 3.47 expected ERA, but he's not exactly the world beater he was earlier on in the year. I think a lot of it has to do with teams getting better scouting reports and being a little bit more familiar with him as the season has gone on. So you could see, for instance, just in his ERAs by month, or also if you look at some of his strikeout rates, where early on in the year where he had like a 26% strikeout rate in the first couple months of the year, it was only 21% in June. And then in turn, we see him with a 4.27 FIP in June, 3.69 in July, which once again are not bad, but it's not as good as it was early on in the year. And this is a Cardinals team. There's a lot of hitters that are better against left-hand pitching than right-hand pitching. So at least as a contrarian stack, that's a team I'm overweight to. Are there any contrarian teams that you're finding yourself getting to in lineups?
Yeah, a little bit of Detroit. Seth Lugo's been really, really good, but I feel like Detroit could end up really, really low owned on a slate like this. We've got them at 7.9% ownership share. I'm going just hitter by hitter and looking at a couple of these guys specifically. I mean, there's obvious downside. I mean, obviously, if you're playing one lineup, this is not the team that I would be landing on by any means. But I think overall, with Wenceel Perez, Justin Henry Malloy, Apply Madras, these are not popular names, but they're cheap. Colt Keith, 3,600, lefty out there up against Seth Lugo. I think they're just cheap enough that, if you're trying to get different, Dylan Dingler, he's somebody that's going to be up there. Dirk Diggler himself, going to be up there quite a bit here, 2,400 a catcher. I think we'll be talking about him a month from now as like, oh, how he'll be a very, very popular play on a lot of these different slates, where I think he'll be higher up in the order. I think we're going to see him succeed pretty well here at the big league level. Dylan Dingler, a name to be keeping your eye on there from Detroit, but yeah, it's still Seth Lugo. He's very, very good, but this is just leverage against a popular pitcher. And I think that there's decent enough opportunity for some unknown hitters here to potentially be better than what we think, because, at the same time you talk about scouting reports from the pitching side, we're going to be getting some scouting reports on some of these hitters that get called up who have had good AAA numbers like Diggler, but we'll find out about them more as we go along.
You know what it's time for? And we were giving Eric shit at the top because, it's funny that his internet wasn't working, that he wasn't here for half the show yesterday or today. But you know what has been working for Eric? The man hasn't missed a home run pick on this show in, I don't know, a week, the month, the year. Nobody knows for sure, but you can't remember the last time he didn't get a home run pick correct. So, Eric, you tell me who's hitting a home run today. I'll do my pick, and then we'll take some from the audience as well, and that'll wrap up the show for us. Eric, who's hitting the home run today? Who's the dong of the day? These can't miss lately.
So I don't think there's any coincidence. Once the NBA season ended, your boy is up 52 units here, and 38 of them are by way of the long ball, which is just insane that I'm only up 14 units on the entire rest of the portfolio. I mean, obviously, beating spreads, beating totals, it's a lot more difficult here in the baseball streets than what it is, I think, in any other sport. You can get to early lines in NFL, you can get to early lines in NBA, or, obviously reacting to injury news in NBA as well. But your boy has been picking out the long balls exceptionally well. If you like money, you're going to bet on Jorge Soler to hit an absolute nuke today. We're talking about a guy who's rejoining a really good lineup. He has plus 420 best available number over on FanDuel. And there's just no way around it. Jorge Soler is going to see much, much improved goodness here now that he's out of San Francisco. He's smashed. He was the World Series MVP for this baseball team no more than 2 years ago. And Jorge Soler hits it high, 18.3 degree average launch angle. He hits it hard most of the time, only 40% this season. It's pretty markedly down, but he gets a matchup against Max Meyer. And Max Meyer, congratulations on your early results, getting some lower launch here. So far this season, he's at where's the exact number? 50% ground ball percentage. Cool. 2 years ago, it was at 44%. I think that's going to be closer to what we have long-term. Jorge Soler is going to take him on a magic carpet ride. Your home run of the day, Jorge Soler.
Gunnar Henderson from myself. And let's see what we have from chat. We just ended up hitting lock, but I want to read out some of your guys' picks in chat. And we have Flim Flam Man is going with Cedric Mullins. Thomas Rensberger went with Anthony Santander. Nicholas Barrett went with Ian Happ. We've got Nice Kevin went Bonds. All right. I don't know which player is supposed to be Barry.
That's great.
Bonds.
That makes me happy.
But Bonds, Santander, Witt, Ozuna. We've also got Jackson Holiday here from Malucar, Dansby Swanson from Ryan Stubbs, Jorge Soler from BX44, Willie Calhoun from Andy Melman. We've got Malloy from Aaron Hines, Hunter Renfroe from Lance Jones. Then we've got Anthony Santander. I think I already read that one from Thomas Rensberger. We've also got, where is it? Nolan Shanuel from Chris Williams, Taylor Ward from Lewoo23, Matt Olson from EMAC, Marcel Ozuna from John Den. Tripp is going with Ezekiel Tovar. And close us out, Jordan. Who's your home run pick? Who? All right.
You know what's funny? Chris Williams. I want to throw this out there.
I don't know. Chen. Do we got? All right. So we got Seiya Suzuki from Jordan Klein. He gets correct that the Chicago White Sox are playing today. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you have not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Every time you hit that like button, Eric's internet gets a little bit better. So it helps us out a whole bunch. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching. Have a good night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.